Good morning, Colorado. You are listening to the Daily Sun Up. It's a conversation with the Colorado Sun. I'm team editor David Krause. Before we jump into today's conversation, here is a quick message from our sponsor.
Support comes from Credit Union of Colorado, proud to call Colorado home for more than 90 years. They are a local institution with a track record of showing up for the community and putting people first. Credit Union of Colorado. Honestly good. Learn more at honestlygood.org. Set the summer trend. Electrify your lawn equipment and help reduce harmful ground-level ozone in your Front Range community. Learn more at simplestepsbetterair.org. Got leftover paint taking up space? Recycle it with Paint Care. Paint Care makes it simple and easy for households and businesses to recycle their leftover paint responsibly. Drop it off for free at one of more than 200 sites across Colorado. To learn more, visit paintcare.org.
Now, back to the show. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. The latest real estate numbers from the first half of 2026 show that the Denver metro area market continues to be flat. It's probably a good word for it. So joining me today to dig a little deeper into the numbers that she reported on last week is Sun business and tech reporter Tamara Chuang. Hello, Tamara.
Hey, David. How are you?
I'm doing great now that I don't have to sell a house again, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it is a buyer's market, so anyone looking out there, keep that in mind.
Yes. Well, you and I have talked about this plenty offline as well, but selling and buying houses since a pandemic has become quite a thing. Tamara, let's start up the conversation today with some of the more intriguing numbers you reported on last week. Where are we in the first half of 2026 compared with the first half of 2025 in the Denver metro housing market?
Yeah, and I would say the Denver metro trends kind of are the same for Colorado because Denver is such a huge part of the state. But, sale prices are kind of bleh. Number of sold listings are slightly down. I mean, you would probably call it flat by saying it's down 1.5%. And these are single family homes. It's just not very exciting for a lot of people. I mean, I had one realtor who mentioned that buyers aren't buying or they're not even looking. And her quote is, "The typical late summer slowdown arrived ahead of schedule in Boulder and Broomfield." That's Kelly Moyer, who's a local realtor over there. But yeah, I mean, summer is usually when people are buying stuff or looking because, kids are out of school. They're looking for a new place. They need a new place before the next school year. But apparently it's the summer heat maybe has gotten the better of them. There's a lot of stuff about how slow it's been, especially compared to it's hard to forget the pandemic era explosion, the housing frenzy in 21 and 2022. But, we're kind of at the opposite. But the most notable thing about a lot of the data, well, mostly in the Denver metro area data, that is that inventory is down. So as one realtor mentioned to me, even though supply is, wait, let me get this right. Demand is low, but so is supply. Wait, right? Something like that. Demand meets supply.
Some of that supply and demand effect.
Exactly. The supply and demand. There's usually if there is too much supply, that meets demand, or there's too much supply, so there's less demand. Or I'm getting this all mixed up right now in my head because we're recording, I guess. But the thing is, extra supply has not equaled increased demand. Back in the pandemic frenzy, there was not enough houses. So demand was great because everyone wanted to buy. So inventory was low. So a lot of realtors in the real estate industry said people need to sell, but some people were holding on to their houses because they needed a place to live. And that caused prices to go up, and that created something historic. And, hopefully we won't have that again. But right now we're kind of at the opposite.
Tamara, what level are interest rates playing in all of this? I know, having experience both selling and buying houses since the pandemic, really people are watching that interest rate, and you get that, oh, maybe it'll drop, and then it doesn't drop, and then all of a sudden people go start looking at houses again. Are we stuck in a little bit of a cycle there?
Yeah, so interest rates, they are much higher than they used to be, but used to be meaning like in the 2020s or whatever. The thing is, interest rates aren't at the highest they've been in recent years, but they're not at the lowest. But they're not necessarily going to go back down. I think they're still around 6% ish or something around that for a 30-year mortgage. People are getting used to them, apparently. That's what the market is saying. And, prices have just not increased for the median home sale price. And that's partly because maybe these buyers can't afford it still, because it's still a big affordability issue. And, they may be taking on these loans with interest, the 6% interest rates, which is nowhere near what they used to be like in the 80s or 90s and stuff like that. So it's just a different sort of market. But the main thing a lot of realtors are saying is, the house has to be priced right, which I think, only realtors really know what that is, or, only buyers know what that is once they actually put that offer down.
Tamara, you touched on it a little bit. We're finding out that this year less supply apparently, as you mentioned, has not resulted in an increase in demand. What are some of the insights you learned there in reporting your story last week?
Yeah, was looking at the downturn in inventory numbers, and Redfin, the big real estate tracking market research company, they actually they do reports on this all the time, and nationwide we are near, one of the highest rates of delistings and relistings in the market. So this is sort of that trend where people are taking their houses off if maybe they didn't get the price they want, or the house has just been sitting for sale too long, or maybe there's some sort of personal financial situation where they need to hold on to their house. And many are relisting. And, I know this is a common trend for the homeowners market, that, when this happens in your own situation, you might take your house off the market, maybe fix up certain things, or maybe just hang on to it because you think you'll get more buyers down the road. And I think that happened with you, right? The thing is, Redfin has been tracking this, and in April, 2.5% of the homes on the market were relisted homes. And that was at the highest rate since 2020. And meanwhile, Denver's relisting rate at the same time was 3.1%. So that's even higher than the national average. So there's just a lot of people taking their homes off the market, and possibly putting them back on, maybe at a lower price. There's different things going on. Redfin also pointed out that at least in the Denver area, 45% of the houses that were relisted had cut the price.
Tamara, get into that a little bit more. When you talk to real estate agents, what do they say are some of the pros and cons to relisting?
Yeah, well, if you do think your home is undervalued, you take it off because it's not selling and you're hoping for a better price down the road, that's a bet. That's a gamble on the future. Is it going to be, it could be worse down the road, or it could be better. So, that's really up to you. But, one realtor mentioned, a lot of people do this because if you just sit out for a little bit and come back, it attracts fresh eyes, to a stale listing. And that's why it's one tactic that some take. But, it really depends on your personal situation. Do you need to sell it right away? And if you do, I guess you got to lower the price, or you got to figure out what the buyers want. And so that's kind of the unknown. Nobody, in any market, it's hard to know what's going to happen in a couple months. So how to get to that right price is, well, I'm not a professional realtor, and, real estate agents say, talk to them. So that's what they're telling me. And that's what I'm, seems like a good sign. And maybe that's a story for me to do down the road.
Tamara, you reported the median price for a house in a single-family home in Colorado right now is hovering around $580,000. The market's kind of fickle. There's a lot of factors going into this, higher interest rates, maybe fewer homes on the market. The price of monthly payments is going up. How are people kind of navigating that, and how are agents kind of viewing all these external factors in when they try to figure out what a good price is?
Well, I think they have to see what's selling, right? And similar size homes, that's kind of the advice of realtors, look at what's selling in your neighborhood and go with that. But I really don't know all the details on that. I was saying that maybe that's a future story for me. But one thing, when I was looking around the state to see, is this trend of lower inventory similar to other areas around the state, I wasn't finding that. And even nearby neighbor Colorado Springs in El Paso County, their inventory change was down 2.4%. So actually, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but part of the story was that areas in the Front Range, areas in the Denver metro area, their inventory was much lower. So like Denver County's inventory is down 30%. Boulder's down 25%. Arapahoe County's down 26% from a year ago. That means that rate of fewer homes available for buyers. But looking outside of the Denver metro, El Paso's down 2.4%. But in areas like Gunnison was up 2.8%. Montrose was up 39.8%. So I think, in some of those areas, it could be that they have figured out pricing. There's more demand there. But also there's just fewer home sales. So I know that, you get, a dozen houses sell and that could really change your rate. So it kind of just depends on where you're at. But a lot of this information is available on the Colorado Association of Realtors site. They track this for every single county, and I have links to it in the story. But, it's an interesting resource, and, combine that with some of the other resources out there and talking to, people who are selling these houses. To me, it's like, well, this wasn't too exciting of a story to write because it's kind of a, same old, it's kind of flat and just waiting for what's next. But, it was interesting to see that more people are delisting or relisting their houses.
Tamara, always great to get your insight and your knowledge on housing, especially as much as you covered it over the years, especially during the pandemic and coming out of that. If you haven't already, you can check out Tamara's story about the housing numbers in the metro area, as well as across Colorado. You can find that on our homepage and on our free Colorado Sun app. Tamara, make it a great week.
You too. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening. And finally, here are a few stories that you should know about today.
A new survey shows that too many hikers are pooping in Colorado's backcountry, outpacing efforts to build new outhouses. More than 1 in 10 hiking toward the summit of Mount Elbert say they are relieving themselves in out-of-the-way places on the 14er near Leadville. That leaves a growing problem of how to manage all of that waste. More residents displaced by the Aspen Acres fire are being allowed to return home. Some evacuations were lifted as firefighters continued battling flames ahead of another day of hot, dry weather. More than 15,700 Coloradans remain cut off from their homes, mostly in Pueblo and Custer counties. Colorado's efforts to shut down its coal-fired power plants are being delayed by a shortfall in generation and a move by the Trump administration to keep old plants online. A new estimate found that keeping the plants running will cost more than $87 million. That tab is likely to go to consumers.
To read these stories and much more, visit our website, coloradosun.com. As an award-winning nonprofit news outlet, we take our mission of credible, independent journalism seriously, and you can check out our trust indicators at coloradosun.com/ethics. Our music is by the Denver-based Matt Skellinger Group. A link to their music is in our show notes, and a special thanks to Swallow Hill Music. I'm David Krause. See you next time.